Is she into me, Nick? Is she not? Was she ever? Does she want me now? Now, if you guys are familiar with my other videos, you probably know that the most common question I maybe get asked revolves around the idea of trying to figure out if a woman is interested in you. And as I've talked about before, I think trying to answer that question is mostly pointless because you'll never know for sure and you can't read her mind. And what matters most is what you want and trying to lead with that. But I understand that some men want some semblance of just a hint so that they feel more sure of themselves to make a move and see if they're not just going to make an ass of themselves, right? Now, what I want to talk about today are 5 signs that usually mean a woman's interested in you. And again, nothing is absolute, but generally if you're getting some of these or most of these, then you can safely assume that somebody's probably into you, and that hopefully will give you a little bit more courage to move things forward. Now, number 1 is if a woman is, regularly playing with her hair and kind of touching her neck or fiddling with her face and her lips a little bit. Could it just be that she's unconsciously touching those things? Absolutely. But more so often when a woman is attracted and she's trying to show that she's interested in subtle ways, they start to do this even unconsciously. And we see this with chimps and other mammals in the kingdom where they kind of preen or they expose their neck a little bit. And so just like when you're nervous and sometimes you kind of clamp your hands or you kind of play with your fingers a little bit or you put them in your pockets. A lot of times when a woman's attracted to a man, she'll start playing with her hair and touching all those areas without even thinking about it. So if you're seeing that on a date, it may be a good indicator that she's feeling something more. Now, number 2 is when a woman positions herself closer to you. And this is actually a secret, stealthy technique that a lot of women know about and men don't. But let's say you're at a bar and you're hanging out and you notice a woman keeps kind of walking by you to grab a drink, or she moves with her friends group right next to you and she kind of looks over her shoulder and gets a little closer. This is sometimes a good way that they're indicating that they want to be talked to. And they'll do this on a date where maybe as the date progresses, they'll walk closer to you, or when you sit together, they won't sit so far away later on the date. Physical proximity is a great way for us to build connection and feel close to one another, and it also makes it easier for you two to touch. So if you're in a random social gathering and a woman is constantly around you or walking by you or looking over at you, then she probably wants to be talked to. And if she's on a date and she's walking with you close and she's rubbing up against you or sitting right against you, then she may also want to start getting physical and for things to move forward. Number 3 is if she's laughing at a lot of things you say, even when they're not that funny. If she's constantly giggling or leaning in and laughing and getting really close and saying how funny you are, that's a way that she's showing that she likes what you're saying, she's curious about you, and she's feeling really good about you and good with you. And so I tend to find that if a woman's really showing that she's having such a playful, positive experience with you, she's trying to signal that she's also feeling something more for you. And if you've seen my video on touching on a date, then you'll know that one of the best times to create that physical contact is when you two are sharing a laugh together. So again, if your woman's being super silly around you and laughing at all the time at your jokes, you could probably try to start breaking that touch barrier and seeing how she responds from there. Number 4 is if she accepts your flirtatious or physical advances. So if you are telling her that you find her attractive because of some personality trait, and she's like, hey, thanks so much, and she seems to enjoy that, and she seems to even be flattered by it, or you start to create some physical contact and she's still sitting close to you and she's letting your hand linger there for a little bit. Maybe she's even leaning in a little bit closer and she's not turning away or moving your hand off. That is her saying that she's recognizing you're showing probably romantic interest and she's cool with it. And in fact, she likes it. So as long as she isn't rebuffing your advances and brushing off your compliments and moving away from your touch, and she's cool with you showing interest, then she's basically saying, I know that you're trying to move things forward and I'm open to that. And you should probably keep going until she says otherwise or she shows you otherwise. Now, number 5 is if she goes out of her way to touch you or flirt with you in a verbal way. If a woman is being physical with you on a date or saying, oh my God, you're so funny, and rubbing your arm, or she looks at you and tells you how you're handsome for some reason, or she invites you back to her place, that requires a lot of courage and vulnerability from women. A lot of young women, especially if they're under 30, 35, they don't want to be the first ones to make a move. So for her to be the person to really signal, I'm interested in you romantically or sexually, that requires a lot of guts. And she's not going to go out of her way unless she feels strongly about that and she wants you to know. And especially in those moments, if a woman is flirting with you openly, then you have to reciprocate. You really do. Because again, if she's being vulnerable and she shows her cards and you're just like cool about it, then she's like, man, was that stupid? Is he that into me? Is he judging me right now for being too forward? And sometimes they'll kind of shut down and back off, and that's the last thing you want. So strike when the iron's hot. If she's showing you interest, that is a super, super green light for you to start showing her interest back.